Oregon's history has been marked by the best in us and the worst, by a coming together of those dedicated to tolerance and public interest, and by a splitting apart by those dedicated to intolerance and self-interest. In such circumstances, there are those who rise and lead us from the darkness. This is the story of one who did just that. This is the story of Beatrice Cannady, a clarion voice that rings as loudly today as it did a century ago.
Beatrice Morrow was born in January 1890 in a little town called Littig, which was about 18 miles northeast of Austin, Texas. She was one of 14 brothers and sisters. She went to Wiley College in Marshall, Texas, and graduated about 1908.
She went on to study piano and voice in Chicago, Illinois, in hopes of becoming a jazz singer, but her passion for jazz was overcome by a romantic interest out west.
Apparently she had been invited by Edward Daniel Cannady, who was apparently a love interest. They had a long-distance relationship, a pen-pal relationship, and she took the train cross-country to Portland, and they were married in June 1912.
After Beatrice and Edward married, she immediately took over her husband's role as editor of The Advocate, which was, at the time, Oregon's only black newspaper. This was a privileged position for a black woman.
A person like Beatrice Cannady is a special case. And the conditions of race, the circumstances of race in this country that we inherited from the 19th century guaranteed that most black women, no matter what their skills or their talents or their desires might be, were going to be caught in a very oppressive system of providing domestic service to white society. And to get out of that trap, you had to be, first of all, very talented, and second of all, very lucky.
When Cannady assumed editorship of The Advocate, she really jumped in with both feet. She was not only the collections person, she was the linotype operator, she wrote articles, wrote editorials, she pretty much did it all. And The Advocate was incredibly important for the Portland community, as well as for African Americans generally in Oregon, but it was really their sole link to the broader African American community across the country.
And so journalism is a very important part of how the black community responds to its condition of oppression, and without it, then you don't have any ability to organize and any ability to kind of direct a focused effort on a particular issue.
In order to better focus her efforts, Beatrice decided to attend law school, becoming the first black woman to practice law in Oregon.
I think that she pursued a law career at that time because she felt it would be another way that she could help secure equal rights for African Americans.
Beatrice's activism was not limited to the floor of the courtroom. She included activism in her social life as well, hosting interracial tea parties at her home.
The tea parties that Cannady gave were amazing events. She lived in Northeast Portland. Her house is still standing, and she had as many as 200 people at her home. And she would not let people who knew each other mingle. They had to meet new people. And that was her way of enforcing the idea of contact, that if you don't interact with people and don't understand that other people are basically the same under skin tone, that people never have that opportunity to learn about one another and find out that.
But for a variety of reasons, there weren't opportunities for a whole lot of coalitions to be built across racial lines and barriers.
And so she would invite people, all different faiths, all different religions, ethnicities, races, as many people as she could pull together to welcome out-of-town guests or NAACP officials or people who were in town to give a concert. And it would be a 2 or 3 hour affair, usually on a Sunday afternoon. And people would meet, mingle, sing songs, play the piano, do poetry readings, give lectures. I mean, it must have been quite a dynamic affair.
Beatrice also fought battles for blacks nationally, including her successful protest of the racist film The Birth of a Nation and its endorsement of the Ku Klux Klan.
The Birth of a Nation was an extraordinarily controversial film. It was released originally in 1915, and she, like many other African Americans, as well as the NAACP at the time, felt that the movie was just absolutely inimical to race relations, that it was racist, that it stereotyped, that it glorified the KKK, and she worked extraordinarily hard every single time the movie came to Portland. The Klan was another very controversial episode in Oregon's history. The organization moved into the state from California in the early 1920s and reportedly had as many as 45,000 members during that decade. It was a very difficult time. They used terror tactics to try to intimidate African Americans and to try to get them to leave the state. And so she was one of the people of the NAACP who decided to craft a petition basically to send to the governor and to state their cause, state their case, and to say that the Klan is growing, it's becoming a menace, and we urge you to take all steps necessary to block the formation of the Klan, to prevent them from having parades in our city. Beatrice Cannady is my hero. She did a tremendous amount of work in a span of about 25 years. She believed in her causes and she worked for them tirelessly for years and years. She didn't take no for an answer, and when she had to, due to circumstances beyond her control, she didn't let it get her down, and she just kept working and working. And it's very few people who have such a passion and who pursue it for so many years, and not just for herself, but for her family, for her friends, and for her community, and for the nation as well. And I think that she deserves to be recognized for those efforts.
She plays a role in what American racial history is, but also in the contemporary generation in many ways. One, she's a model that people can look at. And young people do need models. Young people do need information about what the possibilities are and the ways in which people have achieved in the past, so that they know, so they can form models of their own behavior and their own aspirations. So in one sense, she provides that kind of model, but maybe in a more powerful sense, the more you learn about her story, the more you learn about the environment that she worked in and overcame, she becomes an inspiration.
After 25 years of local and national activism and advocating for interracial solidarity, Beatrice Cannady left behind a legacy that is undeniably profound in its ability to inspire past, present, and future generations of leaders.
We have quite a number of intelligent, progressive, race-loving people in Portland who are ready and willing when called upon to ally themselves with any forward-looking, up-reaching movement to improve our condition locally and nationally. Who will make the first move?